Hi, this is Roger and thanks for joining me on my channel. This set of short video clips will show all of my orchids as the growing season gets underway. And then at the end of the season I'll film them all again and do a direct comparison so you can see how they've progressed. These are the befores of the before and after idea. Hope you enjoy them. Right, this is the set of Tulum Nias. I have got quite a few, but I've got a worry now. These got decimated by scale, and scale on Tulum Nias can kill the plant. Basically the tiny little base to the fans covered in sheaths is a place they can get and chew. And then if you destroy the base of the fan, that's the place where the roots come out and obviously where the leaves are pushing on. So, you know, it can actually destroy a whole fan. And I put the whole episode, especially some of them aren't doing so good now, down to the scale. But on reflection, I've just had a look at Anna Maria's video where she had a Tulum Nia definitely proven infected. And as a consequence, I think I may revisit these with another light. It could be that some of these are infected. It could just be the scale, but they're all going to get sprayed anyway. So that's the sort of collected view. The ones that have either got spikes or blooms are up there because I didn't want to lay them flat, and that's the rest of them. So we'll go over each one of those. They haven't all got tags. There are two that the tags got muddled up that I'm waiting to bloom to work out which one's which. But any that haven't got tags will just be called hybrid for now. And this one is Tulum Nia Oriental Pear. The blooms that are on there are a little side branch from the original spike, so it's just extending the blooming period a little bit basically, with 2 extra blooms on the side shoot. This isn't a bad plant. There are some signs of new root growth coming out in places. It has old roots to support the plant. We'll see how that one progresses. I don't see any brand new growths on it as yet, although I think actually that one at the front may well be its latest new growth, the one we're actually dead centre now. So we'll see how that one looks later in the year. Now this one is Tulum Nia Corona, and this was a rubbish plant when I got it. It was a set of 5 single fan plants when I bought it. The growth that's there now was in fact a new growth. The other fan just got knocked out by the scale, just chewed the plant off. So that's all that's left at the moment. It pushed out a few new roots a while ago, but not really enough for the size of that fan. Not looking good, but the leaves don't look desiccated. It doesn't look, I don't know, 1 or 2 of them are. So I need to get on and get that one sorted out. Now this one's got a little bit of a naming anomaly. The tag says Jarrack Flyer Pink Bush, but on the website it says Pink Brush. I'm not really fussed which it is. This one again got chewed to pieces by the scale and most of its original growths failed. It has got a little new growth at the base there, and it has another little new growth coming out here. I think it still needs help. In fact, there's another new growth up the back. So that has 3 tiny little new growths forming now. And there are some signs of white roots with green tips. So maybe that was just the scale hit that one, and it'll recover on its own. It's going to get help whether it wants it or not. This is another Jarrack Flyer. Anything with that in the name, they all came from the same place as single growth, incredibly young bits broken off Tulum Nias. But then they cost next to nothing, so I couldn't complain at the time. This is Black Magic. This one's doing its root thing at the moment and chucking them out like it's going out of fashion. This one hasn't bloomed for me yet, but its progress across the plant leaves that as the latest new growth. I don't see any reason why that one shouldn't spike. It hasn't even finished growing yet. It's still got another leaf coming out. So that should spike when it finishes. Nice new root growth on that one in the last couple of months, going up the mount and down into the moss and out the bottom of the mount. They'll probably climb up the back when they get round the corner. Okay, this is Tulum Nia Sunset Pink. Memory. The empty spike there has just dropped its blooms. These blooms won't be too far away, but basically the latest two growths on that both spiked at the same time. There's a sign of a new growth at the base of the one that's now on the right. This does have some new root growth on it, and although a lot of those older roots don't look viable, they actually are on Tulum Nias. They don't have to be white and clean looking with a green tip to actually be viable. Tulum Nias are quite happy with the older, browner roots. They still hydrate. Yeah, I mean that's not a bad plant. I'm not sure whether that's a new growth there that hasn't progressed, or whether it's just an old one that I originally got it with. I think that was part of the original plant. These are the two new growths round this side, both of which have bloomed. So that's not a bad plant. We'll see how many new growths that's got by the end of the season. Right hand side of the plant, not too good. That's the older plant, and the two new growths are here. New growths are highly likely to come out this side and join that little one down there. This is Tulum Nia Big Bang. This is not a strong looking plant. It's got a spike on it. It will have some blooms, but the latest growth that spike's coming out of is desiccated, so it's not hydrating properly, which gives me a little bit of a worry, shall we say. It needs treatment, that plant. There is one little new growth down the front of the plant there. It's got some roots that don't look too bad, but I don't see any signs of new root growth at the moment. Quite a few of the roots on this one decided to go around the back, so that needs looking at a little more thoroughly. This is the one a while ago that I removed from the bright light because it was getting a bit too dark and purple. It's the one with most of its roots around the back, and it's Popoki Mitsu, I think that is. But on reflection, the leaves are not only a purplish colour, but they're now starting to desiccate. That's got a problem, that plant. Need to deal with that. That's a shame. That was a nice strong plant, albeit a bit of coloration, but not all coloration is due to bright light. Those leaves are now dark, yeah, deep colour, and the plant's not right. So I need to get on to that. This is a no ID hybrid, and some of you in the past must have had orchids that don't seem to be doing that well, but they plod on, they struggle, but they keep going, and then at some point they just seem to give up, and I think this might be one of those. That fan to the right there is rotting at the base. Well, that's the result of scale, and the latest couple of growths have now got desiccated leaves. Although it has got a root system, there's no new ones. Obviously with a bit of help that might recover, but it certainly doesn't look good at the moment. All the leaves on there are quite badly desiccated and feel limp, despite the fact that it gets watered regularly, which means it's not hydrating itself from the root system it's got. Draw your own conclusions, but I know what I think. Now this is going to have to go as a hybrid because it hasn't got a tag. This is in a serious state of decline. The scale knocked out the main plant. That's the sort of stumpy bit on the right as you look at it now. Took the whole fan right off, and that's where the strength of this one was. Since then it's managed to push up a new growth, and it's trying to push another one out, and there are signs of a few new roots, but that one is struggling badly. If there's definitely going to be one missing at the end of the year, it may well be that one. The strength of that plant has just been knocked to pieces by the scale, and there could be other problems. Now, this is a strange one. This has got one singular, really large fan. It's got no signs of any new roots or new growths on it. The leaves are slightly desiccated and slightly tinged purple, so we'll get at that one too. That's Tulum Nia Fantastic. I can't remember whether that sawn off spike there was actually one that I had, or one that it had when I got it. But there's no signs of growth on that one, it's just sitting there. It's not dying, but it's not looking good. Okay, on to the ones on the table. Some of these are really not looking good now that I'm looking really closely at them, so I have to deal with that. This is my species, Europhila. This isn't bad, it has got new roots on it. Most of the roots are out here to the left of the tag. They're relatively fresh roots, some have climbed up the mount, and this has bloomed twice for me in the past on each new growth, and the latest growth is the one there at the front of the plant. It doesn't look as big as the others, and the roots coming out. Yeah, there are a couple of green tips, but it needs looking at along with all the others. This one's also got, hang on, quite an extensive root system around the back of the mount as well, and those are very active roots. Those go a nice green colour when I water this one, so this has got more than enough roots to support the plant. Nonetheless, it'll get treated. And last but not least, this is another Jarrac Flyer one. This is Red Butterfly, so it was a single fan when I've got it. That'll be the oldest one at the back. Pushed up another new growth which the scale got, and this is now its latest growth at the front, which, although the leaves look bigger, fatter, let me say, wrong word, than the original leaves, they're very wide this time instead of being longer and thinner. Now this may be the way it's supposed to be, but given the marks on those leaves and the fact that the last little set of new roots it pushed out promptly did not stay white long, and the green tips have completely gone in quite a short space of time, I would suggest that one needs some help. No signs of young new growths on there. The latest growth on that is the big one at the front of the plant, or the biggest one. It's not big. So we'll see how we get on with that one. And this is with the last one with the spike, or actually in bloom. This is Tulum Nia Peach. Lovely colours on this. Colour changer, starts off quite yellow and then the peachy edging comes later as it matures. This one has quite a large branch on it under there, which has got 4 or 5 blooms on, and again that will extend its blooming period with a branch. The plant itself is quite good. This has a good root system on it. Some new roots, some older roots, but plenty of them, that's the main thing. It seems like it's going to try and crawl away from the mount. The top of the plant, that's the latest growth there. I'm not sure whether that's bloomed or not sure. And then the bottom part of the plant is creeping farther and farther away from the mount. The latest growth is the one farthest away, and that's the one with the actual spike on at the moment. I see no actual new growths as such, and I think that would be classed as the latest new growth, probably. But yeah, we can see the way the plant looks, so we'll see how that changes as the season goes on. Hydrates well, that plant, with that root system. Yet again, I can't do a sort of put all the Vanders together and film them. They're far too big, they won't go anywhere altogether. That's about as near as I can get as filming them all, and that's not all of them. There are other Vandaceous types dotted around that I want to put together. So again, I'll do those individually as I get to them. Okay, we'll take a look at the Vanders as I water them. These are my 2 seedling Vanders, basically. This was the tiniest of little plants when I got it, and was quite disappointed because that's not really what the picture showed, but I can grow it on. It'll take a long time yet. It's an Ascocenda, and it's Salva della Penna. It's producing some new roots near the base at the moment, which is good. This has recently come off of a mount, so some of the roots got torn as it came off the mount, but they were the old ones, which are now like in the centre, don't look so good. But yeah, I mean, it has some reasonable roots. That long one at the back is branching, that one's got a growing tip, This one hasn't got a growing tip at the moment, that long one, but you never know. They can shoot out from anywhere, Vander roots. As long as they get hydration, they're fine. So that's that little one. And then this one has lost its tag, and I'll have to do a pop-up because I can't for the life of me remember what the hell this is called. But again, this is growing a nice set of new roots from the base. It's well attached to this wooden basket. It can live on there forever. You know, if it wants to do long dangly roots, it will. If it wants to just wrap itself around the wood, it will. But it can please itself as long as it's got new root tips, and as you can see, there are plenty of them. It's shooting out from older places, it's extending roots that had sort of stopped growing in the winter, and it is producing some new ones. So it's got a good enough root system for a plant that size. It is growing on quite, you know, it's getting more vigorous. As the more roots it gets, the better the top growth gets. I've got a bit of water damage on that leaf. That's not like me. But yeah, I mean, I would suggest it's far too young to bloom yet. It may have another, it's at least another year, I would say, maybe 2. We'll see. Coming on though. And this is my very recent acquisition, Rancoridis Bangkok Sunset, and it's the named variety fragrant, or fragrance. Hang on. Fragrance. So the tag's wrapped round there with half a word. This has no signs of new root activity anywhere. The roots are exactly as I got it. I believe they will start to shoot out once they get the regular hydration that I now give this. Daily watering, basically. Daily soak. Get the roots absolutely soaking wet, and then do it again the next morning, and so on. I'll need to keep my eye on its growth, because without active roots it is getting hydrated, but not at a rate that would be better. It's just grown a leaf out there on the right. I presume the leaf on the left that's a lot smaller is still going to carry on growing, but I don't know. And it has a new leaf just starting. So that's as I got it and as it goes into the season. That is a poor spike for this type of plant, but it's its first bloom. I'm prepared to put up with that. At least it's blooming size. At least I know that, because it has got some. But I suspect the next spike will be quite a bit better than that. It might be a while away. Change of environment, change of culture, everything else, a little bit of a setback, a little bit of a shock that it's got to get over. It may bloom again this year. It may wait till next year. I'll have to wait and see. No fragrance on that yet, and this is very fragrant. So but then it's a really dull, miserable day. It might be one of those that the fragrance comes out in the sunshine. We'll wait and see. This Vander is the one my daughter got me, has the orange flowers and looks incredibly like a.s.a.p Orange Delight, but without a tag, no guarantee. I've deliberately wanted to film this one just as it comes out the bucket, and it's absolutely soaking wet. This is the idea of the soak, is to fully hydrate the roots, and this is daily. And during the winter that dropped right off, and a lot of these growing tips closed over due to lack of hydration and a little bit of lower temperatures as well. That's not going to happen in the coming winter. The daily watering is going to carry on. The only difference will be they won't get soaked perhaps for quite as long, because the temperatures will be cooler. They won't be using quite as much water, but they don't stop growing in the winter, so they don't stop needing the hydration. And this one's got its first spike this year coming, produced 5 last year, a couple of pairs and a single, so it's quite floriferous. This hybrid's got a name about 12 foot long, and it's actually spelt wrong on the tag, so I'll put a pop-up. Again, think how much better this root system would have been if most of the root tips didn't stop growing in the winter. And you can see where they're restarting, they're much more vigorous this year, but Yeah, they just need that continuous hydration every day through the winter for me anyway. Slightly rosy tinges to the leaves might mean this one needs a little less light, but it's not enough for me to worry about. There's no burning. Good healthy grower, bloomed for the first time last year. So I'm hoping for another spike this year. That's what it's supposed to do. Again, no tag on this one, so a pop-up will be required. And again, this is branching, but this is the result of stalled roots that just sort of seal over the end and then restart again. Those that didn't stall, you know, are nice and evenly shaped, but everywhere where it's pushed out, you know, you've got that interruption to the root growth basically. This is pushing out round the back a couple of new ones from the base of the plant. That's good, they're brand new roots. And this was in bloom when I got it. The blooms didn't last long. It grew another one later in the year, so that one was sort of grown by me, and this year it has its first spike, pushing on well. It should bloom twice this year, possibly even 3 times. The plant has grown a lot since I got it, so it's a much bigger plant. It can support the spikes. So hopefully 2 this year. And the last one's got another name about 8 foot long, so pop-up required. I'm going to have to do something with this hook soon, because the top of the plant is extending such that it's encroaching on the wires, so I need to do something different with this. But it's so well attached to that basket, I wouldn't want to risk taking it out. I would lose far too many roots. It's chucking roots out all over the place. So it's getting a better root system. I cut a lot of the older dead ones off last year to tidy it up, but new ones coming out of the base, they're the ones I like, and those will now be continuously growing roots. They won't stall in the winter. This was quite a young plant when I got it, and it bloomed for me the first time last year. I see no reason why it won't bloom again this year. It's got 2 or 3 extra leaves to help with the production of a spike, so no reason why that shouldn't bloom this year. It's quite a nice plant, that one. You know, it's got another one trying to burst out here under that leaf. They almost push the leaves off the new roots when they're on the stem, but that's fine. You know, those lower leaves don't do a huge amount of good for the plant anyway. So coming on, and hopefully another spike this year. This is my only Vander species. This is Roblingiana, and it's not the best looking plant. It wasn't a good looking plant when I got it, and it stayed that way. But the top growth is doing okay. You know, it's you know, from here upwards is my growth. Had 3 spikes last year. Whether it will bloom this year or not, I don't know. But my ambitions for this is to get more of these coming out higher up the stem. I'd also like to see the kiki at the base pushing out some roots in that area, and if I can get enough roots above this point, I will actually take the bottom of the plant right off and bare root it, because I don't like it on the mount. It's a nuisance to get in the bucket, it's not so easy to handle, and I'd like it to just work like the rest of them. But that's in the future, and a possible, not a definite. I need more roots up here to extend so that they can support the plant, and it would be nice to see some roots from the kiki around this area, and then literally I can take the bottom of the plant right off. I would probably keep these 3 or 4 roots in the hope that they might branch, and then if they don't, I can just go a little bit higher on the stem. Well, that's that one. So as this day comes to a close, setting sun out the window, so this set of videos comes to a close. I hope you've enjoyed them. It's actually quite a task to film every single orchid, and it wakes me up to some problems on the way. You know, I mean, some plants need a good seeing to, so to speak. You know, and it also surprises me that some have done a lot better than perhaps I thought they were doing. So it's been a good insight for me. I hope you've enjoyed them. The hard bit now is going to be doing the end of season, because that's a repeat exercise of what I've just done, plus finding the matching clip from now and putting it alongside the clips at the end of the season. So given how long this bit was, in theory we're looking at twice as long at the end of the season. No, the after clips that I will do at the end of the season will stick to the point, otherwise that's just going to get silly. But I hope you've enjoyed them all. I've actually enjoyed doing them. You know, I've been plodding away at them, mainly when I'm watering. I've got to pick the plant up and water it. I just as well film it while it's there. So it hasn't been tedious, it's been quite enjoyable. And yeah, a nice little set tucked away in a playlist, and we'll do the same thing towards the end of the season. I don't know when that'll be. Our season ends when the weather decides it's going to end, and sometimes we get a very late autumn that runs right into November and the weather's still mild and there's bright sunny days, so things are still growing even though the days are getting short. And other times we get, you know, we get an early arrival to winter basically, and it turns all miserable, horrible and cold, you know, mid-October. So the time of year that gets done will be dependent on the weather, simple as that. But you know, we're well up over 15-hour days now, and we'll head up towards 16, and then we'll start coming back down again. And when we get back down to the magic 11, things slow right up. And then when we get below 11 and head down towards 10, a lot of things really don't grow much. That's what I call the end of the growing season. But weather can keep the season going a couple of weeks sometimes. So we'll see how we go. Right, see you next time. That was fun.